Right now, tensions around Taiwan are reaching a dangerous new level. China has deployed large numbers of warships, aircraft, and Coast Guard vessels around the island in exercises that look increasingly like rehearsals for a real blockade. These moves are not random. They are the result of years of planning, and China has been closely studying the failures of Russia's invasion of Ukraine to avoid making the same mistakes. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the Kremlin expected a quick victory. Instead, the war exposed major weaknesses in Russia's military. Logistics collapsed, fuel ran out, communications failed, and Russia could not achieve air superiority. The entire world watched these failures unfold in real time. China paid extremely close attention. Chinese military planners studied every aspect of the war and drew several important lessons. The first lesson was about logistics. Russia's invasion stalled because it could not properly supply its forces. China concluded that any future conflict over Taiwan must be planned for a long, sustained war rather than a quick operation. As a result, the People's Liberation Army has been restructuring its logistics systems to support prolonged high-intensity warfare. The second lesson was about air defenses. Russia failed to destroy Ukraine's air defense network quickly, which allowed Ukrainian forces to challenge Russian aircraft throughout the war. China now plans to prioritize destroying Taiwan's radar systems, air defenses, and communications in the opening hours of any conflict using massive missile strikes from the PLA Rocket Force. The third lesson involves information warfare. Russia lost the global narrative almost immediately after invading Ukraine. Western countries quickly unified against it. China is determined to avoid that outcome. Beijing has invested heavily in what it calls cognitive warfare, information campaigns designed to create confusion, spread competing narratives, and slow down international responses during a crisis. The fourth lesson concerns economic sanctions. Western governments rapidly isolated Russia from the global financial system, freezing reserves and cutting access to technology. China has been working since 2022 to protect itself from similar punishment. It is expanding alternative payment systems like CEPs, increasing trade using its currency, the yuan, and strengthening economic relationships with countries across Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. In late 2025, China conducted a massive military exercise called Justice Mission 2025. This was not just another drill. It demonstrated a new operational strategy. Chinese naval forces, aircraft, missile units, and Coast Guard vessels simultaneously surrounded Taiwan from multiple directions. For the first time, Chinese vessels entered Taiwan's contiguous zone, waters between 12 and 24 nautical miles from the island's coast. More than 130 aircraft sorties and numerous warships participated. Amphibious landing ships practiced operations near Taiwan's eastern coastline. One particularly important detail was the role of the Chinese Coast Guard. Instead of presenting the operation as a military attack, China framed it as a law enforcement activity. This creates legal ambiguity. A military blockade would clearly be an act of war, but Coast Guard inspections or shipping restrictions fall into a gray zone where international responses become less certain. Taiwan's importance goes far beyond geopolitics. It sits at the center of the global semiconductor industry. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. These chips power smartphones, artificial intelligence systems, data centers, advanced weapons, and modern electronics. Without TSMC, the global technology economy would struggle to function. A disruption to Taiwan's chip production would have massive economic consequences. Even the semiconductor shortage during the COVID-19 pandemic cost the global automotive industry over $200 billion. A blockade of Taiwan would be far worse, potentially halting production across multiple industries simultaneously. The Taiwan Strait is also one of the world's most important shipping routes. Roughly 40–50% of global container traffic passes through it. Any military conflict there would disrupt trade, increase shipping costs, and cause global inflation. Countries around the world are trying to reduce their dependence on Taiwan's semiconductor production. The United States passed the CHIPS and Science Act, investing billions of dollars to build domestic chip factories. Japan, South Korea, and the European Union are also investing heavily in semiconductor manufacturing. However, building advanced chip fabrication plants takes enormous time and money, often 8 to 12 years and tens of billions of dollars. Even if these projects succeed, they will not replace Taiwan's capacity quickly. Militarily, Taiwan faces a difficult challenge. China's armed forces are far larger and possess thousands of missiles capable of striking the island. Taiwan's strategy focuses on asymmetric defense, using anti-ship missiles, drones, mines, and air defenses to make any invasion extremely costly. This concept is often called the porcupine strategy. The idea is to make Taiwan so dangerous to attack that China decides the cost is too high. The United States and its allies are another critical factor. American military planners are preparing potential responses, while Japan has significantly increased its defense spending and acquired new long-range weapons. However, the exact level of U.S. involvement in a Taiwan conflict remains uncertain. Even if China successfully seized Taiwan, the aftermath could be chaotic. TSMC relies on thousands of highly specialized Taiwanese engineers. Running these facilities under Chinese control while facing international sanctions and political resistance would be extremely difficult. The Taiwan issue is therefore not just a regional dispute. It sits at the intersection of global technology, international trade, military power, and the future balance between democratic and authoritarian systems. Over the next decade, decisions made in Beijing, Washington, Tokyo, and Taipei will determine whether deterrence holds or whether the world faces the most consequential geopolitical crisis since World War II. The small island of Taiwan has become one of the most important places on Earth, and what happens there will shape the global economy, technology industry, and international order for decades to come.